as I've stated before, I've been enjoying watching a TV show on Netflix called Sex Education. What it's doing, it's giving me topics to consider here. It doesn't give me the answers because my thought process tends to be different to most. But it gives me things where you're seeing interactions, you're seeing a conversation, and boom, it just triggers me. And I think, it needs to be discussed somehow. And like I say, I tend to pick different angles than the majority of people would naturally go because I don't copy anything. So in this dynamic, it was about something triggered me before, but I didn't. It wasn't enough for me to talk about it. But something else later did, and that is drugs. Um, I wouldn't be the best person to talk to if someone had an addiction, for instance, to drugs. I wouldn't. I mean, as a last resort, I could potentially try and help someone um, talk through it. But I like most things, really, it's best to get advice from people who have experienced similar. So um, I'd be limited in coming at something from a direction that I don't know much about. I don't know much about, but I do know the other side of it, where I've never ever, I haven't even tampered with anything. I have never had a cigarette. I've never had drugs because I value life far too much, and I've always had that feeling throughout my whole life. I can't be tempted by things because life is precious, and the way I see drugs and even cigarettes, it's like playing Russian roulette with your life. With cigarettes, it's more of a consumption thing over time. Um, but why? I don't understand the point of speeding up the process of death. Like, why would you want to do that? It doesn't make sense to me. So why risk it? Um, with drugs, I understand why people would. Um, I'm a bit. In some ways, I don't have compassion, and it's not to be mean. It's just like if you see the signs though, and you know better, why do it? I can understand. Again, it's what I was getting at before. I can understand if someone's already consumed something and then they can get addicted to it. But I think it's taking that first step in the first place is the part where I struggle with. So someone could say, I can't help it, I'm addicted. It's like, yeah, I understand that. I understand how hard that must be to stop. There was always a temptation because you now know what it tastes like or you know what the feeling is. I understand that. But there was a point at the very beginning before you even had that moment where you could have just said no and you would never have experienced it. So you wouldn't know what you're missing out on. So you couldn't possibly have an addiction to it. I don't, even if it doesn't make sense. No, I'm not an addict of anything, but in rational thought, it doesn't make sense. Again, I can only put things into consideration of how I am, and maybe it isn't as extreme, but I understand the temptation of it. So I like soda. I drink too many fizzy drinks. I shouldn't drink as many as I do. I'm actually drinking water at the moment. I've got instead of buying like Coca-Cola cans, this week I've bought a whole sack, like 24 bottles of water. No Cokes, just water. So I'm making an active example to myself. Now, of course, I'm still going to have Coca Colas. It's not. I'm not but the difference is Coca Cola's not there to kill you. It would be different if it was. I understand it can cause some sort of health reactions and things. So there's like limiting, but it's nowhere is it to any extreme of a cigarette, and definitely not to the extreme of a drug. So you could argue that the first time you had a soda was the time where you started potential addiction towards drinking sodas. But you drinking a soda isn't like a severe health risk to such an extent that your life depends on it. Like it's not that deep. Um, so I struggle to understand how someone would risk their lives. Now in this TV show, one of the guys he was mixing with new people, and they offered him a drug. At first, he was hesitant, and he was like, he willingly did. He wanted to experience it, so he did it from a place of I want to experience it. Now, I've only experienced drugs through watching it on the TV. To be honest, in reality, in reality, if I saw someone take drugs, it would scare the living shit out of me, to be totally honest. I would be terrified because I would be worried immediately for their health, and I'd just be wanting to monitor them. Do they need an ambulance? Will they need an ambulance? That's how I'd feel, because any drug you take, you first of all, you don't know the purification of it. You know, you could have things mixed in. I don't know what the chemicals are, but you know, any sort of shit could be put mixed in with things like powders and all sorts of things. It won't be 100. Unlikely to be 100% of what you think it is. That's risky as hell, man. How's your body going to react to that? It's chemicals, you know. It's a chemical reaction within your body. This is outrageous. This is surreal to me, that the idea of just having a high, a dopamine effect, you know, it's worth potentially risking your life. Now, the real problem most people have is they think they're invincible. I witness people in my life think they are. You know, if there's an illness going around, they think they're like Rambo. You can go through anything. It's like, that's not how the body works, unfortunately. Your mind might tell you you're a hero, but the body will tell you otherwise. So anyway, in this TV show, there was also an addict mother. She was losing access to her children. She was acting like she wasn't doing any more drugs, but then there was found some stash. It wasn't seen that extreme at the that you know, you didn't really see deep. And I'm watching another episode now, and like the eldest daughter's had to travel back from abroad, where she was studying, to come back to her mother because her mother was in hospital after an overdose. So she's rushed back. So her education suffered, her experience has been diminished because she's always having to look after someone who's unstable. And then they get there and they wait around, and then they're sent to this room, and in the room, they were obviously expected to see their mother. Instead, they saw a sofa, a couch, and they was asked to take a seat. And then they was told, unfortunately, your mother's passed away. And straight away, that's what made me come and do this video, because I just thought about it and I just thought, that's outrageous. Like, the daughter had told the mother so many times, you need to get yourself together. And she's like, here we are, I will. Now, look, this is where addiction comes in. I don't have experience of it. But it's such a tragic waste of life. I know it's only a TV show, but there's so many examples of this in real life, you know. To the part I struggle with, I really struggle with it. Only because, like, I'm an example of someone who is not tempted by it. I'm too headstrong. I don't see the point of risking it. And that's the part where I'll never understand someone that comes up with an excuse beyond it. There is no excuse. If you've already got an addiction to something, it's a completely different scenario now. Now you need to have someone to help provide balance. And that's going to be a lifelong battle now, because you know what it can provide you. So if ever you feel depressed or you feel down, or there's a reason to feel you need something to help you through it, that's going to be the course of action you're going to seek, because you know it can help you through that moment right now. It comes with its risks, and it only gives a short-term euphoria anyway. So you have to keep taking the hit, rather than heal yourself. But the part where I have trouble with, you see these scenarios time and time again. You hear of someone that's passed away because of drugs. And yet, people still to this day will participate in it for the very first time. And they're the ones I just don't understand. You know it's bad. You know you're risking your life each and every time, even if it's just your very first time. It doesn't matter what time it is. You don't know when your time is up. So you could say, I'll try it. That could be the day you die. Maybe you're okay this time. Maybe it's next time you die. Maybe you get away with it a few more times and you just think, you know what, nothing gets me. There'll be a time when it does. And when we see it over and over again, like, how the hell do people make the decision to say, you know what, this is worth the risk, I'm going to take this? It's ridiculous. Even if people just argued peer pressure and things, is that peer pressure worth your life? Drugs is one of the things that I've just never understood, because I've never been interested in it. You know, I've had people try to, not necessarily drugs, but even like cigarettes and things. I've had family members try and pressure me. I mean, how sad is that? They try and pressure you to do something just to fit in with them, even though they know it's bad for their health. But they do it because they've got no respect for you. That's what it comes down to. You know, they've got no respect for themselves, and they want other people to fit in with them, you know, join them, because then they don't feel so vulnerable. So they're prepared to destroy your life too. So, like, for instance, one of my sisters, let's put my sister as an example. She even tried making a joke about it at some point, you know, try and make me look stupid in front of people. And I'm like, I'm not the stupid one here. You're the idiot. You know, you're all risking your lives for this shit. And I'm not doing it. Why would I do that? But they try because you're the only one. You look like the idiot, you know? So effectively, they decide to start smoking, risking shortening their lifespan. And they're prepared to risk influencing and even try to ridicule until you do, you to reduce your life too. Says everything, doesn't it? Um, so yeah, I just don't understand. I can't understand the where the risk is worth the reward. Like, where is it? Where is it? It doesn't make sense to me. It's the only part I can comprehend at all is some people are just weak minded, where they do get influenced by other people, so they succumb to peer pressure. But you'd have to be incredibly weak to succumb to peer pressure and risk your life. Now, that's ridiculous. Why have you got? Why you have to ask the question? Why do you really want to fit in that much? You know, what's so bad about people not liking you? You know, I have to come to terms with that a bit. The other side, I can understand to a point. Let's say you're depressed or you've gone through trauma, and life doesn't seem like it's going to have much for you. So the only excitement you're likely to get in life, or the opportunity to be happy, or feel something, is perhaps through the drugs. It's artificial, of course. So it's false. It's not real. Um, and of course, I can only assume the come down's quite terrible. If you have an artificial experience that makes you feel like you're on top of the world, all your problems have gone away, so you can create any reality you want in a given moment, I could only assume when that vanishes and your life is still an incredible mess and a struggle, that must be really hard to cope with. So I can understand what you would then return and return and return. But again, unless you heal something and deal with your own life, you ain't going to be able to. It's just going to repeat anyway, isn't it? And like I said, when it comes to drugs specifically, every time you participate, you're risking your life ending there and then. And it's such a tragic loss because all people have to do is heal themselves. And like I said, it's going to be a lot harder for people that have already consumed drugs, though. And that's where I can't correlate it. Um, I don't have experience of that. And I definitely couldn't watch someone take drugs. It would be like, I can't watch someone put a gun to their head and pull the trigger and hope to God the bullet doesn't kill them. Like, that's what it's the same thing. People might think that's an extreme. It's not extreme at all. You don't know what the contents of any given pill is. And even if it's pure, it's going to be potently strong anyway. So I don't know what game people want to play with their lives, but it's not something I've ever done with mine. You know, I value life too much. I have too many dreams, too many goals, experiences to have. I recognise we have low moments, and it's not the best thing in the world. I've talked recently about my low moments where I'm frustrated as shit. Like, I'm really lonely. Like, I'm loneliest I've ever been in my life. You know, at least during childhood. Sometimes I felt alone in periods. I think we all go through periods like that. But at least I always had. There's always someone home, if you like. You know, family members. There's always someone to bump into. You're never truly alone. Um, And then even in my previous relationship, when it was like a family dynamic, there's like differences within that, and it's not always a happy moment. But again, there's always someone about, and you've got the kids there. For the past 8 years, I've been alone. Like, I've had to just deal with everything on my own. Like, my reality is lonely. That's what I've had to cope with. So you could argue that that would inspire a moment of weakness. No one wants to feel like they're missing life. But at no point have I thought about that as an option. No, would I? I would rather deal with my demons, if you like. I would rather cope with the situation and to find a way to cope through it, you know. And it's just how I am, you know. I'm always working on myself. I don't make excuses for anything. I've used that time to my benefit. For instance, I've healed past wounds. I've assessed my life and those around me. I've established boundaries with people I consider toxic. I've been building my character and obviously healing myself, changing my outlook on life. I've achieved my biggest goals in my books, for instance, which didn't just end with one. It created a new pattern of behavior, like new goals and milestones, a new trend, if you like. Achieved my biggest dream in that sense, and only continue to improve. And that's all come during that period of being alone. Um, so yeah, there's benefits. The benefits and negatives to everything. But being alone, I don't have distractions. But being alone, I get to choose what I want to do at any given moment of any given day. I can make excuses to do nothing. I can also inspire myself to do everything. Um, so the world is our oyster, and it's what we make of it. But I think thinking that life's too hard, that I have to do that, it's like that's just an excuse, though. You don't have to at all. There's alternatives. Sometimes just look at your life, think about what you can do to improve it, and then work towards it. No one says it's overnight. You can't just go, "Oh, I'm not feeling it today. If I can't do this today, if I don't have all this by today, I'll give it up." Well, that's just a bad attitude, isn't it? Because healing takes time. It's a journey. It's certainly not a race. But I would argue that anyone that tries to influence in a negative direction is hardly um, the best person to have around you. Because the way I see it is, if someone doesn't value their life, they're hardly going to value mine. So, what purpose would that serve to have me surrounded by people like that? Yeah, I'd rather be alone than that. Thank you very much. And I'm strong enough willed to tell people no anyway. No, and even if it's like a load of people just laughing, it's like, yeah, you're the crazy ones, not me. Don't worry about that. And like I said, I think it's important that people maybe learn from people with experience. And I have experience of saying no. That's my experience. I don't have experience of taking anything. But then I recognized before I did the video that, to be honest, I think there's power in that as well. Power in sharing your story of no. Because all that everybody hears is people being weak and saying yes because my friends have took it. Yes, because I don't want to seem different. I don't want to seem weak. Like I said, every time you do it, you're risking your life, whether it's the first one or there'll always be a last. There'll always be a last, won't there? I think it's going to be rare. I think it's going to be. I think it's rare. It's rare, probably. I would assume it's rare. I haven't looked at statistics and stuff, but I would assume it's rare for people that are addicted to drugs to die of natural causes. I would be interested in statistics of that. Um, but I'm not doing this video. Isn't for me to target and ridicule people, because there's people with serious problems, and that's why I say they would need someone who genuinely understands the condition. This video is for those who haven't taken drugs yet, and they haven't vaped or had cigarettes. You don't need to do all that shit. I would. It's like it's like find your crowd. Just because you find sometimes people find themselves limited. Like maybe the only group around you are these chaotic lunatics. So if you feel in that moment that's the only option I have. Well, don't worry so much about being alone and being the odd one out and being seem to be weird. Life evolves. So sometimes you go into new surroundings, a new environment, and there's new types of people. There's so many different variants of people. Like it's probably infinite. But on a basic level, if we was to do it like this, you can have the stoners, the druggies, the people that just abuse their bodies. Life, everything's worth risking life for. Uh, That definitely is the worst case scenario for me. That's not even people I'd want to talk to. Um, then maybe you got the sports people that just love sports. Then you can have maybe the nerdy, geeky people that love technology. Um, and then it can go off other ways, the academics, and then the fashion people, and all the different things. But if you're only surrounded by the druggies and the alcoholics, and you decide, you know what, I'm just going to join in with them. It's all that's all there is. It's all there is to the world. It's like, no, there's all these other communities you can be part of. It's like, who are you? What do you want to do with your life? What's your interests? So you might go on holiday and everyone just wants to drink around a pool and just that's all they want to do. And you might think, oh, I wanted to do more, but I don't know what else there is to do, so I'll just do that. There's loads you can do. You can go on tours, you can do all sorts. You can do like hiking, you can do all sorts of things. There's so much you can do. You don't have to just do what everybody else is doing when you go on holiday. And it's the same thing. It's like make the experience what you want it. Effectively make your life what you want for your life. And I've just big dreams and goals, and an innate an innate value of life itself anyway. So that's why I could never risk it, knowing that there was always health issues with it. So that even a cigarette, I just wouldn't. I don't need to. Effectively, I don't need to know what that tastes like. It's not gonna. It could taste of the most beautiful scent and aroma, or whatever you want to call it, in ever. It's not worth dying for, though. You know, it doesn't make sense. It doesn't make sense. Like I said, I think the biggest problem most people have is the fact they think they're invincible. And there's a lot of people, and again, I'd be interested in the percentages, but I don't think you'd ever know the true percentage. There's a lot of people who say, "I don't fear death. I don't care," and yet they're probably the most insecure, vulnerable people you'd have met, and they're pretending, potentially even pretending to themselves, because when they're faced with the thought of that, it frightens the hell out of them. And it's quite shocking, isn't it? Because you think, well, why would you keep risking it though? But yeah, some people, I don't want to say some people can't be helped, but I think some people are going to find themselves in a perpetual fight against addictions for their entire life. And I think when they are doing well, I think, that's an incredible achievement. I don't doubt that. But like I said, my issue is the ones that decide to do it for the first time, knowing full well these stories that surround it. I don't get it.